Welcome to Well Played Podcast, a show on all things playful and joyous in education. I'm your host, Michael Matera, sixth grade teacher, author, and speaker. Well Played is part of the On Podcast Media Network. Today's episode, I'm super excited. We have with us Jennifer, and she and I are going to be talking about digital ideas for the digital classroom. But before we do, Jennifer, if you could introduce yourself, give us a little background on you, that would be awesome.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Cory. I work in Fairfax County Public Schools. I'm the technology coach. I was trained as a Spanish teacher and ESOL teacher, and most of my experience is in high school.
Dang, high school. That's as whew, that is a thing I have not done yet.
Well, I kind of feel that way about sixth graders, so.
Oh man, I love me my sixth graders. All right, so you this year find yourself supporting teachers in a digital learning environment, right? Because your students aren't in person as of yet, right?
Correct. We are 100% virtual.
100% virtual. You're teaching in some sort of Tron school. That's awesome. All right, so I am like a hybrid model. So Jennifer and I thought it would be good to have a little episode where we maybe kind of jam out some ideas we've been doing for those virtual learners. I happen to be having a mix, virtual and in person, but still trying to crack that code on how best to support and connect. And then Jennifer is doing that for a bunch of teachers, all virtual. So this will be between the two of us. We cover the spectrum pretty nice. So I'm pretty excited. Well, one of the things that definitely I tried that Jennifer shared out was you did this virtual paintball activity. If you want to go ahead and describe that, I would it, people get ready. It's amazing. It's amazing.
So it's really a simple idea. It's just a Google Slides template that has a bunch of different size circles in it. And you team up your students into however many teams you need, and then set a timer, and they race to fill the paintballs with their team's color. And then whoever at the end of the timer has the most color, the most of their color on the screen wins. And then there's a round two where in the round one the background is white, and so they can see the circles.
Now
And then
before you tell them about round two, I just have to say Jennifer is being incredibly sort of modest here, but she's just like it's a bunch of circles and they fill it in. But I ran this activity with my students, and like there's a whole ton of magic that happens in that moment. And I have to tell you, as somebody that got to see the kids like live doing it, like mixed with the hybrid, it worked with the virtual, worked with the in person, and people were super like energetic about it. It was kind of it brought me back to the sort of the classroom experience that we had kind of pre COVID days. So don't let Jennifer fool you that like this. She's been very modest. We're like it's circles and they color them in. Awesome. It was awesome. There was just a ton of energy.
I'm really glad to hear that.
Ton. All right, now tell them round two, and you can be modest if you want. I'm just gonna jazz it up in the end then, because round two is literally what sold me on it. Round one was like this looks cool. Then I was like, what? On round two, it's amazing.
So round two is paintball in the dark.
Now you should
So
just let that marinate for a second. Just let that soak in, Jennifer. That is amazing. Paintball in the dark. All right, now explain it.
Um, so the circles are gray and the background of the slide is gray. So you can't see where the circles are. So you have to click around to find them. And you same rules as round one. The set a timer. The team with the most color wins.
See, you did it again. You made it seem really like just modest with this like gray on gray. They can't see anything, and like you are just sort of hunting and pecking, and then all of a sudden you start seeing these kids fill it in with all of a sudden these things are starting to light up with color. People are like, oh no, they're like yelling at their teammates like we got to find another one. Like click around, click around. Maybe that was just my kids, but it was just full of energy in that second round. blew their mind just as much as it blew my mind because like had a great time, 10 out of 10 on round one, and they were just like, "This is the best thing I've ever seen in my life." That's more or less a paraphrase quote by my students. And then you clicked into round two, and they were like, "How did the best thing in my life just get better?" Like, I don't know, but it just happened.
Well, I'm really glad to hear that because I am out of the classroom now, so I did not get the chance to play this game with any kids.
Dang, I feel like you and I have to sort of battle it out, after this episode because it's an experience. It is an experience. So did some of your teachers implement this yet? I know you said you've
I
just been back for a week, so
Yeah, we this was our first week back. I have not heard any of my teachers that I work with use it, but other teachers on Twitter have been really cool
yes,
about posting the video
the internet
of.
is on fire with this idea, and I'm gonna say round two is what sold us all for sure. Round two is amazing. Uh,
Okay.
so let's see. I should probably share one. So for me, first of all, I just in case anybody is super busy right now listening to this podcast, Jennifer's idea is going to be the best idea on this podcast. So if you're super busy or you pulled into the school parking lot and you need to like, should I stay or should I go? You can go now. But we're going to talk a few more ideas. But that was 10 out of 10 and then got better. All right. So one of the things that I've been doing in my class, so again, my situation is a hybrid situation. And this past week, um, so I've been in school 2 weeks. It's the beginning of the year, so we had like a little advisory extra time at the end of the day, and the team decided like we'll go outside and kind of just let kids have a little extra time outside, which pretty normal thing to do. I feel bad almost saying this, but our virtual students for almost got like overlooked. Like we were just like, well, we're gonna take these kids outside, and we had like 2 periods before that happened, and I was like, oh, like virtual kids can't all come with us outside, nor will they want to watch their friends play at recess. That's just torture. So I quickly like shot an email to all my team and said like, hey, how about I take all the virtual kids, you guys take my students, go outside with the whole sixth grade, and I invited the virtual students to do sort of a game together. So we played a game. I think everybody who's doing virtual should, if you're looking for a great game to do with your class, your whole class, I'd highly recommend Codenames.games. Is unbelievable, great implementation, super awesome to be able to do over like a Zoom or whatever. You could do it even in person with your class. Nonetheless, it was so awesome to see those virtual kids like hang out and smile together because up to that point they've just been attending classes and they're missing all the socialization. They're getting the lectures, the activities, but even when they're paired with students in class, I mean it's class time, so like they're doing the work. But like so far 2 weeks in the school year, they haven't had just like a moment to like chill with their friends. And I just kind of wanted to tell everybody that story so that we remember to take that kind of time for our students. And I would imagine that would be true kindergarten through high school, that those relationships matter. But I've never taught high school, so Jennifer's going to have to weigh in on that one.
Yeah, yeah, I think the high school kids need their friends just as much as the
I knew it.
elementary kids.
I knew it. That's awesome. All right, so I got that idea. We have a few others. But being a sort of tech integrator, do you have other tools that you're really liking right now? Things that are working really well? Do you have any more of those crazy 10 out of 10 lessons? If you do, I mean, that's unbelievable.
I'm not sure that I can say I have another one that's 10 out of 10. We've been focusing a lot on breakout rooms and small groups, um,
Like
just because,
digital breakout rooms?
yeah,
Yeah.
just because the conversation and debate that kids use to process what they're learning is just so important, and you can't do that with 30 kids on a Google Meet.
No, no. Uh, I haven't done a digital breakout yet this year. Um, it's gonna be hard for me because I so like the physical. Like I'm a huge fan of the physical breakout. Um, I mean, I obviously get and understand the digital breakout, but oh man, it's just another thing that you're like, darn Corona.
Well, yeah, I agree. I've done the digital breakouts, and they're just they don't get the excitement I think that the physical ones
The physical,
generate.
there's that moment where they're dialing into the locks, and it's just like, ooh, and and also just like the belief that there could be clues anywhere. You know,
Yeah.
like I think we have all the clues. Wait, did everybody check underneath the desk? Did everybody check under? Was that book over there? Like I think that book wasn't there. And I just love hearing all these things. It's like, yeah, that book's been there the whole year. But like, okay, like glad you just noticed now. Hey, that poster has numbers in it. Been there since day one. Like,
Yeah.
but the digital, I mean, I get it, and obviously right now that's a great way to do it. And even before then, my eighth grade colleague does a lot of digital breakouts with his students, and even pre-COVID. And so I know they're a super good thing to do. I should totally let go of the fact that they're not going to be in person and just succumb to the digital breakout. But oh,
It'd be cool if you could somehow get the kids who are at home to put the clues in the background. Um,
ooh, that
that way,
that'd
like
be pretty.
ahead of time.
That'd be pretty awesome. I like that idea. I like that idea a lot. So let's see. All right, one digital tool I have absolutely been loving. I want to work on a YouTube to further explain this one YouTube video, but I'll share it right now. Is a free software for educators called Kialo. You heard of that?
No, I haven't.
Your high school students, I believe, would love it. It is an online debate platform, and you can use it really for anything. So, like, I mean, an English teacher could post, like, what do you think the character should do, and then people that, or was the character right in doing this, right? Or it was a good ending, bad ending, like whatever you want to do, right? History teacher, like there's there's a world of things to debate there, or you could just use it as like a fun activity, like you could just debate whether kids should be able to vote or whatever like that, and let them debate. But it's all written, so in my case, where we're a mix, they're able to do it in real time and start to see these pro con arguments come in, and it's very visual. Like you can sort of see these like almost like a tug of war pro cons. Kids can like upvote someone's, and then you can also like respond in a pro con sense to any sub point that somebody makes. It sounds more complicated than it is. This is why it needs to be a YouTube video. Probably terrible to tell you this on a podcast, but it is been a lot of fun, and kids have really liked it, and the sort of level of thinking, it reminds me of like other discussion based activities that are rather hard to do right now. This brought back some of that zeal. Kids like to debate.
Yeah. So what does it look like when they're
What
doing it?
does it look like on a podcast? That's challenge accepted, Jennifer. Challenge accepted. All right, so at the top there is the main argument that I put in, right? So that could either be content based. I did it first week, not content based, just things to stir up, like to just have kids play with the software. So, for example, one of them was like school should be year round, and then kids like that argument's at the top, and then there's just a box that says pro, con, and if you click the pro, you then write your sort of support to that argument, right? Like I think it should be year round because of X, Y, Z. Okay, and then that like falls on the pro side, which is green, and then other people can be writing like cons, right? And let's say you write a con, and I'm like, ooh, I disagree, right? I like your con is like year round schooling would be terrible. because kids would learn more. And I'm like, oh, I I think the opposite. I think that's good that they learn more. So I can click yours, and then yours on my screen would become the like top argument, and there's pro con. So I could like detract from yours and like support mine directly on yours, and then there's like infinite of that. Like somebody could click mine, and there'd be a pro con to that. But then it builds this like awesome sort of tree of comments that you see visually at the top, and then you can get a report that really like shows this web of all the decisions. Uh, from my first one, I had a lot of the features turned off. Like I said, one of the features I can't wait to sort of let my students do is where they can kind of vote on people's decisions, and that way like they can kind of as a community decide which one wins. But sixth graders need a little coaching before you kind of release that sort of democracy. Uh, I think they would just be like, "Ooh, my argument's great for." But like I said, it was highly visual. Kids really liked seeing it all happen. Kids were really involved in trying to defend their side a little bit, right? So like once they had written their pro argument, they sort of looked through the cons and then tried to argue the opposite, right, of the con. So they'd click whatever con they wanted to defend against, and then support their argument with inside that one, and it just became this battle, and it was just on fire. And quick tip, I mean, I always tell kids on any of this digital space, like, this is the equivalent of me raising, or of you raising your hand and me calling on you. So like, a pro or con argument can't just be like, yeah, this is dumb, or that's dumb, or school's dumb. Like, that you wouldn't raise your hand and say that. So don't put it in here. And I was amazed, like that little bit of constructive like guidance. I think in all 5 of my sections we had a really good discourse.
Cool. I'll have to check that out.
Check it out, because I'm sure my description was terrible. I'm sure you're still terribly lost.
And it's Kialo?
Kialo, yes. Yeah, Kialo. And the like if you go to that website, that's their paid one. But if you go to kialo-edu.com, you can get it for free.
Oh, nice.
Right. It's like the best flavor in education. Free.
Free.
Yeah. It's so good. So good. All right. So that's a tool I really liked. And like I said, really helps online as well as in-person learners. You're talking about doing digital breakouts, which is, I think, another super sweet idea to do with students. For me, running lessons, I've been doing a lot on either. Our school has subscriptions to both Nearpod and Pear Deck, and they're like 80% the same product, and then there's just that like I wish they have both, which is great for me. So I've been using both. But anybody that hasn't ever checked those out, check them out, because that is pretty awesome to sort of run through a Google presentation together. And again, talk about equity between your online learners and your in-class learners. Then everybody's seeing everything. Everybody's experiencing everything. One of the things I learned that Pear Deck does that Nearpod doesn't, right? Like this is the moment in the podcast people are leaning forward in their cars. They're like, what are they about to say? The thing I learned is, this is going to sound really simple, but I was doing one of John Meehan's like templates, right? And my 6th graders, I wanted to be able to do this self-paced and go where they needed to go. And Pear Deck will allow like links to be active in like through the Pear Deck, where Nearpod, it's almost more like there are pictures of the slides, so like whatever you do on it doesn't really activate. So
Yeah, Pear Deck like embeds the website in the presentation.
correct, but let's say in my presentation I wanted you to like click the scroll to like go off and read something. If I do that in Google Slides, where I like make the scroll a link, in Nearpod, that link doesn't actually translate over there. But in Pear Deck, it still stays an active link. So I was able to do some of my gamified things where there was still like this nice narrative piece things looked right, things felt right, but ultimately like they could click on the things and do the things. I didn't have to like give them a link. I didn't have to make a Pear Deck version of it, right? I just needed Pear Deck to be the thing that's going to deliver it to them. But if that makes sense, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, all right, all right. So, do you have some other ideas, some things that have worked for you, some things you're suggesting with your teachers?
Just to get the small group discussions going, it's really hard when you're 100% virtual. So we've been, what we're doing is creating um, breakout room hubs. So it's like we'll create a Google Meet um, and post the link like as group one for this Google Meet. And so, those four kids go to that Google Meet and they have a private conversation. Um, and you're able to, as the teacher, hop into, each, like you can hop into group one and clarify any misconceptions um, or just check on them in general. And you can cycle through all the groups, and you leave the main room, the main Google Meet open, um, so that when and everyone mutes their microphone in the main room, so they can still hear in the main room, but the main room can't hear what they're saying. And so as the teacher, you just call everyone back by unmuting yourself in the main room.
All right, that's pretty helpful. We haven't had to do that with the hybrid, but uh, super clutch last year to do some sort of like breakout rooms when I was doing all digital in the spring. Uh, that was that was pretty big, definitely. I tried to find like a good sort of today's meet sort of replacement, like a back channel, and I found two tools. Yo Teach is one that's sort of similar, and then another one called backchannelchat.com. That works. And I've done both of those in my class so far. Again, pretty nice to have a class discussion. Just feels, for any of you other hybrid model people out there, feels weird to have, like, I mean, like your classroom silent, like, because people, like, they're just all typing. But you have some kids that are virtual, so you, like, need that to happen. But it's weird. It's weird. Sixth grade classes should be louder than clickety clack of a keyboard.
Yeah.
So, uh, the other thing for my online learners that I've been trying to do uh, in in my class is this is not a tech thing, so maybe some of you guys will see the value or not. I don't know, but I've actually just been trying to be a little slapstick funny with them because, again, like they just feel like they're missing out on those inside jokes because they're just not there. So I'm trying to intentionally like build inside jokes with them and do silly things with them so that they don't feel so left out. And that has been pretty good. When I checked in with the kids last week, at the end of the week, how they're all doing, at least my advisees, with the virtual, and they all said like those things make such a difference for them. So for what it's worth, you know, again, remember to be relational with your students. At least that's true for my virtual students.
So, like, how did you do that?
Some are better than others. One time I was teaching and I saw one of the virtual students yawn, and I was like, "Hey, like I heard, I'm just gonna use your name, Jennifer. Like, I've heard yawning is like a sign that you're dehydrated. Are you like drinking enough there?" And you're like, "Yeah, yeah." And I'm like, just just open your mouth." And she does. She opens her mouth, and I take my water bottle and I pour it out on the floor right there in front of all the students, and like she's like dying laughing. All the kids in the room are like, he's totally doing it. It's just water, people. Like, it'll be fine. But like it was like that kind of magical moment. And then like the rest of the week, like whenever I'm just gonna use your name again, whenever Jennifer like signed into the class, like everybody was like, you need any more water? I think Mr. Matera's got some water for you. And like she's laughing, they're laughing, and it's that shared connection between the in class kids with her that I think took me 2 seconds and a wet carpet for a little bit, but like totally worth it. It's corporate carpet, so it's fine. Uh,
That sounds great.
so that like silly things like that, I think can just make a big difference. One of my online learners, she had always been, I don't know, her bedroom and office, whatever. And then the other day, she was clearly on like a porch, and you could see all these like trees in the background. And I was like, "Did your parents kick you out of your house? Like, are they?" And she's like, "No, no, no." I'm like, "Are you in the woods? Do you get Wi-Fi in the woods? That's crazy." Like just little, like took 2 seconds to say that stuff. She's giggling, and then like you just can fall back on those kind of moments in the lesson, right? So when I want to check in and be like, Jennifer, can you still hear me in the woods? You know, like, are you still there? You know, and she's like, yes, yeah, I'm not in the woods, Mr. Matera. I'm just on the porch. Like, sure you are. I know. Yeah, you're right. Your parents kicked you out. I got it. You know, 2 seconds, but it makes everybody in the room for a moment forget about Corona, right? Like even my in-class students laugh, feel good. The online feels good and connected. Um, so, you know, just be a little silly. I don't know, call them dad jokes, if you will. Do a bunch of dad jokes.
That's great. My principal does that with our online meetings. He'll notice things in people's background and kind of tease them about it.
Yeah, like see, just it's just, but it like that's like being human, right? Like that's being relational, and so I absolutely love that. So that would be my biggest tool, I guess, is try to be relational and put that first. Put that first and foremost. Uh, if your lesson is good, you know, save a bit of energy so that you can be creative. Like, I mean, I hate to say it, right? But like, we are on some level performing for our students, like, and I think now more than ever that performance matters. I don't know. That's how I see it. So, Jennifer, we are like at reflection time here, and I have a great quote by Fred Rogers, and Jennifer has no idea what this quote is. So normally, I ask all my guests before they come on, do you want to know the quote or not know the quote? And it's about 50-50 on people that want to, people that don't want to know. Jennifer joins the ranks of didn't know. She just didn't have the choice. All right, so I'm going to read this quote, and then you and I are going to kind of just spin it pretty quick on like how we think this quote sort of fits our students, you know, whatnot. Fred Rogers tells us this: "It's the things we play with and the people who help us play that makes a great difference in our lives." How do you see that quote as an important piece today?
Wow. Wish I had known. And I love Mr. Rogers. The things we play with and the people.
Who
Can you say
help
it again?
us, the people who help us play, that makes a great difference in our lives. It's the things and the people that help us play that make
Yeah.
a great difference in our lives.
The- Um,
I feel like just using your 10 out of 10 and an 11 out of 10 paintball example works on this, right? It is not only like the thing they played with, right? The activity that you created that gave that shared experience that mattered, but it was also the people. Like it was collaborative. It was even the aspects that weren't collaborative. It was a collaborative slash competitive experience, but oh, it makes such the difference, right? Like I told you, like probably one of the best things that happened in my classroom, and it's that it embodies this quote, right? That it is what they're playing with and who they're playing with. That
the connections.
yeah, that makes all the difference. the game or the toy or the whatever that they're playing with is the focal point. But then, really, when you walk away from that experience, it wasn't the focal point. It was the people. It's the laughs you had along the way. It's those moments like, did you see that when Jennifer did that? Like, oh, did you see that when he poured all the water on the floor? Like, right? It's not. It isn't the game, but the game facilitated that, right? It was the game. It was the thing that they were playing with that brought everyone there, and then it's just the people, really.
Yeah. I think it's interesting that he says the people who help us play.
Yeah.
I don't think about play as help, but I think he's right.
You did that. You facilitated it for hundreds and hundreds of kids across the United States, possibly around the globe. That's crazy to think about.
Yeah, that's great.
That is great. So, well, thank you so much, Jennifer, for joining us on Well Played. I would absolutely love to have you back on again sometime to chat all sorts of other ideas in education with you.
Well, thanks for having me.
No problem. Everybody else, thank you so much for listening to another episode of Well Played. Always appreciate you guys coming each and every week, sharing this out with others. We at Well Played are always looking for great ideas, and this community is just filled with ones. Thank you for coming to XP Lab. Thanks for checking out the YouTube channel. Appreciate all your help and support, and Teachers Table on Facebook. There's just a lot of things. There's a lot of things, lots of good people. Thanks everybody for connecting. Take care.